Fall 2025 is not about reinvention for the sake of reinvention. It's about refinement. The fashion world has finally understood that people don't want to feel like clowns in seasonal costumes. What dominates this season are trends that actually make sense for real life, but still carry the depth and psychology of high fashion. The most powerful change is that trends are no longer treated as disposable entertainment. This fall is pushing back against gimmicks and reminding us that style is meant to hold authority. People want fashion that aligns with their identity, not something that looks viral today, but embarrassing tomorrow. And that's why restraint is now the loudest voice in the room. Fall style in 2025 is leaning into structure, control, and elegance. We're watching the industry move away from chaos dressing and return to coherence. People are no longer impressed by outfits that scream, "Look at me." They're impressed by looks that communicate without words, discipline, mystery, and intelligence. Wearability this season is not about being safe, it's about knowing how to command respect with the least effort. This is also a season where fashion is being reclaimed as something personal again. Social media created an era where everyone dressed like a carbon copy of the same Pinterest board, but fall 2025 is pulling back. The most magnetic trend isn't a silhouette or a color, it's individuality. People are layering, styling, and mixing in ways that reflect their personal power, but without chaos vulgarity. It's elegance sharpened with identity. And let's be honest, what's fading are the fads. Overly exposed silhouettes, cheap fabrics passed off as luxury, and the kind of logos meant to compensate for lack of style are all looking outdated now. Nobody aspires to look like they're trying that hard anymore. What dominates is subtlety, richness, and presence. Clothes that let you carry yourself like someone untouchable, not someone desperate for attention. Fall 2025 fashion is proof that the most wearable trends are also the most timeless. They're not about a season, they're about setting a standard. And those who understand that shift aren't just dressed well, they're shaping culture. Follow GTWJ Mag on Instagram for more, because these aren't just trends, they're the codes of power being rewritten in real time. Fall 2025 is stripping fashion back to its essentials and reminding us that style is supposed to feel lived in, not performed. What we're seeing this season is the collapse of spectacle for spectacle's sake. People are tired of chasing pieces that make sense only in a magazine spread or for a single post. The real shift is toward fashion that can breathe with you, that carries you through your daily life without losing an ounce of authority. This fall is not about costumes, it's about codes. Codes of elegance, refinement, and self-respect. The trends that are dominating are the ones that don't just flatter, but communicate. They don't reduce you to a body part or a logo. They frame you as someone untouchable, someone who walks in with an aura that doesn't need to be explained. And that's the psychological undercurrent of fall 2025. Fashion has stopped rewarding those who scream for validation. The woman in vulgar, hyper-revealing outfits isn't admired anymore. She's pitied. The person in chaotic, try-hard styling isn't seen as creative, they're seen as confused. The looks that matter now are the ones that project discipline, restraint, and quiet strength. This isn't about being bland or disappearing. On the contrary, it's about being unforgettable without forcing it. The most wearable trends this fall are wearable precisely because they are timeless. They carry richness in their textures, precision in their lines, and a balance that makes you look like you're in command of yourself and your environment. Fall 2025 fashion is about presence, not noise. It's about being remembered for the way you carry yourself, not for how desperately you tried to stand out. And in that sense, the most powerful trend of the season is elegance, because it's the one thing no algorithm, no fast fashion cycle, and no vulgar gimmick can ever replace. That's why the GTJ perspective matters, because it's not just about what's trending, it's about what it means. And what fall 2025 means is that fashion has finally chosen sophistication over spectacle. Follow GTJ Mag for more, because this shift is only just beginning. Fall 2025 is exposing a brutal truth. Fashion that lasts is no longer about dressing the loudest, it's about dressing with intelligence. The trends that will dominate this season are the ones that can carry you through real life without ever making you look dated, desperate, or like you're trying too hard. The energy has shifted completely. People are tired of gimmicks. They don't want to look like they've stepped out of a costume department or an algorithm's Pinterest board. They want clothes that breathe with them, that fit into their routines, but elevate every single moment. Trends now are less about quick validation and more about long-term admiration. The fall style that's taking over is not obsessed with exposure or vulgarity. It's about control, presence, and self-respect. Fashion has become about psychology again. The way you present yourself says more than any logo or cutout ever could. The woman who walks in, covered but composed, elegant but understated, will always command more respect than the one chasing attention with cheap tricks. This is why fall 2025 is so different. The wearable, dominating trends aren't about sameness. They're about individuality sharpened through refinement. Everyone is learning that mystery will always outlast shock. That restraint will always outshine chaos. And this is exactly why those who understand elegance are admired, while those still stuck in fads are already being forgotten. The takeaway is clear. Fashion this season isn't asking you to be loud, it's asking you to be undeniable. And that's why these trends matter. They're not just about what's in, they're about reshaping the culture of style itself. Follow GTWJ Mag for more deep dive fashion analysis, because fall 2025 isn't about trends for the sake of it. It's about rewriting what power and elegance look like today. Fall 2025 continues with one undeniable reality. Fashion has left behind the obsession with shock value. What dominates now are the codes of discipline and elegance. The newness this season isn't in some gimmick or costume, it's in the return to style as authority, where what you wear says more about your self-respect and your control than it does about chasing the latest fad. The trends that are rising this year aren't about creating clones of one another. That entire Pinterest board sameness is over. Instead, fall 2025 is about cultivating identity inside the framework of refinement. You don't need to scream with your clothes anymore. You need to project strength, intelligence, and presence. And the wearable trends are exactly what allow that. Fashion that carries you without reducing you. This season is brutally honest about what works and what doesn't. Cheap novelty reads as desperation. Overexposure reads as insecurity. Trying too hard to be ironic or loud only highlights how little taste there actually is. What stands out now is subtle richness, a balance of minimal restraint and personal detail that makes you untouchable. And that's the psychological root of these trends. Fall 2025 isn't about trends at all, it's about standards. The woman who dresses with elegance and control isn't competing for attention, she commands it. She doesn't need validation because her clothes already tell the story. That's why what's wearable this fall is also what's timeless. This is the era of rejecting fast, fake glamour. This is the season of building an aura. Fall 2025 fashion will be remembered as the moment elegance replaced chaos. And that's why, if you want to understand what's really happening beneath the surface, not just what people are wearing, but why, follow GTWJ Mag. Because this is more than fashion. This is the psychology of respect, rewritten in real time.